these wavelengths, they resonate, vibrate, harmonize at the same frequencies as the water inside of our bodies. And so if you drink a fair amount of water, you're probably 72% hydrated on a cell level. Your brain is about 81% water, and your cell is about 98% water. And so water is a big part of the discussion in terms of detox, because the water inside your body is the transport system to bring nutrition into the cell, and it allows the cell through the semi-permeable membrane to get toxins and waste products out.
Welcome to the Beljanski Cancer Talk Show, where integrative science and holistic healing come together. I am Sylvie Beljanski, and in each episode we explore nutrition, lifestyle, mental health, and research-backed approaches to support the whole person through cancer and chronic diseases. Hello, everybody, and I'm delighted to have you today, Beljanski Cancer Talk Show, and my host today for this event is Robby Besner. Robby Besner is known to be a philanthropist. He's the chief science officer and co-founder of TheraSage, and he is also a pioneer in infrared healing technology. As a chief science, he has developed cutting-edge infrared solutions after his daughter's Lyme disease diagnosis led him to explore holistic healing. Now a global healer in the field, Robby speaks at top health conferences, serves on non-profit boards, and continues innovating wellness solutions that empower people to take control of their health. Today, we want to speak about everything you are doing, but I would like first, Robby, to speak about you. And as a little boy, I understand that your daughter's diagnosis was a turning point in your career, but you, as a little boy, how did little Robby got involved into research, science, and the perfecting of all those devices that affect our health?
Wow, great question. And if I go back to a little boy, you have to qualify how little you want me to go. But as kind of an inventor, so to speak, I guess my childhood upbringing, my dad's inherited a business, our family business, which was sort of a retail business. I grew up in New York, and he brought him, now going back, 60, 70 years, yeah. And back then we didn't have internet and cell phones, and so he'd commute back and forth. And so at a very early age, I was being told I was the man of the house, which gave me a lot of rope to investigate my own ability, to trust my own intuition, as well as to be inventive and to be an explorer. And so that's an interesting quality that I just sort of semi became aware of, mostly because I see it in my son, who is 36 years old. And he's also that type that he can read something, test his own abilities, And there wasn't any limit as to the things that he could do, as I found in myself. So then undergrad sort of education, I was in a liberal arts program, but I also was centered on psychology and biology, and was planning to go to medical school, which I started allopathic track at Case Western Reserve. But the undergraduate applications, I really studied theology. I studied engineering, a little bit of business. I went to the University of Boston University, and so they had many colleges, and it gave me the ability to expand my own horizons to see exactly what my interests were. And I just thought back then, if I tried enough things, almost like a pair of jeans that fit, all the time, Sylvie. So I just wanted to see which genes fit me in terms of that time in my life. So I followed an allopathic track, but when I started, it didn't quite resonate for me. And this was close to 40 years ago. And at that point, I took a leave, which I think crushed my parents, because my mother was very happy about my son, the doctor, and went into business and followed and developed and retired a few businesses. But I had a very strong understanding of biology, physiology, engineering, business. So I had already at that time had a lot of skill sets. That brought me to the crossroad that you mentioned earlier about my daughter contracting Lyme disease. And when she got sick, we were very fortunate because we had means, and we aligned with the top Lyme literate doctor, probably still considered one of the top Lyme literate doctors in that area. And he was located in New York. We were already positioned down in South Florida in Boca. And so my wife and I, Melody, would take turns going up to East Hampton, where his clinic was, and with my daughter about every 6 weeks, where he would look at her progression, tweak her protocol, and then we'd come back down to Florida. At that point, because my orientation in healthcare personally, as well as from our family point of view, was a natural approach. Now they call it integrative functional medicine, but back then they didn't call it that. So I was more of a homeopathic, naturopathic type of approach
Mhm.
to my own disciplines in healthcare, as well as what we practice as a family, which was contra to the allopathic approach using heavy antibiotics, which is what was considered to be the most effective method to manage Lyme disease. So while Dr. Joseph Biruscano was focused on the allopathic track, I took a look at the way that my daughter was expressing herself, and it was high levels of toxicity, inflammation, cognitive challenges, pain challenges. So I focused on toxicity and then did a deep dive as to the best methods to detoxify. And then that's when I discovered that there's frequencies of sun energy, which is the infrared spectrum, that will actually mobilize all the toxins in your body. And that was a really tipping point for me, Sylvie, because I took a look at the available devices that were being used in infrared in that category. Also in healthcare, it wasn't mainstream 27 years ago when we started developing devices. It was being used in healthcare by sports medicine doctors to help players lower their pain thresholds and heal faster from injuries. So that intrigued me. But so that caused me to create, I went to China for 90 days. I interviewed 65 factories and I started to develop devices mostly just for home use. And so that was for our purposes. Julia responded so well to the intervention and the way that infrared would help detoxify that the doctors started to ask us to make these devices for them, for their practices. And that was kind of the genesis of our company, TheraSage, as we see it today.
You just mentioned infrared, mentioned frequency, detoxification. How does those things work together, and how, I mean, first, what is the difference between infrared, red light, frequency medicine? Can you explain that and explain how they work? How do they support the detoxification of the body?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. Red light is very close to the near bandwidth of near infrared. So if you look at the full spectrum of frequencies that come from sun, you start with the gamma rays, then X-rays, then ultraviolet light, then the natural rainbow. So that's visible light. So the frequencies, infrared frequencies, are invisible to the eye. And they run in a range of its calibration called a nanometer, and it runs from around 600 nanometers to around 14,000 nanometers in that range. And it comes in three different wavelengths. The red light sits right before the near infrared frequencies. So there's a lot of interaction, health benefits from both red light and the near frequencies of infrared spectrum. So they're both very close. Of course, red light you can see, so it's part of the visible spectrum. But just after the red light comes the near frequencies, which is invisible to your eye. Now, how it works in terms of detoxification is that these wavelengths, they resonate, vibrate, harmonize at the same frequencies as the water inside of our bodies. And so if you drink a fair amount of water, you're probably 72% hydrated on a cell level. Your brain is about 81% water, and your cell is about 98% water. And so water is a big part of the discussion in terms of detox, because the water inside your body is the transport system to bring nutrition, into the cell, and it allows the cell through the semi-permeable membrane to get toxins and waste products out. So how it works is that because the frequencies of infrared harmonize, resonate at the same frequency as of water, when infrared frequencies come into the body, there's a layer of fat just under your skin that probably holds maybe 70% of the environmental toxins that our body takes in through either water, food, or air. Those frequencies come in, and normally, if you compare infrared, let's say sauna or infrared frequency, to that which is called radiant heat or radiant frequency, because it's part of the sun spectrum, as opposed to convection heat, which would be a hot rock sauna or like a Swedish type sauna or a steam room, those frequencies heat the ambient air up that touches your skin. And then because it's an elevated temperature, eventually you start to sweat out some of these poisons. Infrared doesn't heat the ambient air, goes right through that insulating layer of fat. It harmonizes and resonates with the water inside of your fat molecule and continues to move into the body about somewhere around 2 to 3 inches into the body. And that same resonance, that vibration called a bioresonance, it shakes loose the covalent bond between the toxin and wherever it's stored. So if it's in your fat molecule, it creates a vibration, breaks loose those toxins. About 80% comes out in your sweat when you sweat, as you see the sweat. And then the other 15 to 20% goes the other way into your bloodstream. As that's the stuff that's available of the fat. But now if you go further about, let's say, the toxins like heavy metals, neurotoxins, toxins from mold, all those toxins that the body holds on to, that's the byproduct of microbial activity. Those are stored, I call it kind of the silt. It's the really small nanotoxins. Those are the ones that are kind of the hardest ones to get out of the body. And there again, because the infrared frequency is breaking the covalent bond, particularly for heavy metals, because a metal has a charge and your body has a charge. So there's not only the attraction of the toxin in the body, but it actually holds on like a magnet, positive, negative. So they're attracted to one another. So that's the one that is probably the most impactful in terms of infrared frequencies, pulling heavy metals out and so forth for the body. But basically these wavelengths create a vibration that mobilize all the toxins in your body. And then it's up to your elimination system or filtering systems like lymphatic or liver, kidney, pancreas, large intestine. These are organs that are designed to pull poisons out of the body, to actually eliminate them. So that's kind of how it works.
So do you have also any system to make sure that everything is eliminated, because that's part of the process?
Yeah, I like combining an infrared protocol along with a binder. And a binder could be activated charcoal or bentonite clay, or that's a macro binder, they call it, which is kind of like a big sponge. And the other kind of binder is a small sponge, or they call it a nano binder. That would be a silica derivative, which is called zeolite. And there you're catching all those little particles.
So do you have anything that helps increase the elimination, since this seems to be part of the whole process of improving the circulation and destroying? You need to eliminate, you mobilize those toxins in order to eliminate them. But how do you help eliminating them? When you are facing cancer, you are suddenly facing a myriad of questions. Questions about nutrition, lifestyle, mental and emotional support, and how integrative approaches can work alongside conventional care. The Beljanski Integrative Cancer Conference brings the conversation together in one place. From June 26 to 28, join leading oncologists, integrative physicians, researchers, and survivors in San Diego, California, for 3 days of science, informed whole-person cancer care. These live events explore evidence-based integrative strategies, emerging research, and practical tools you can apply immediately while connecting with a community that understands the journey. Whether you attend in person or virtually, this conference is designed to educate, empower, and support informed decision-making. Learn more and reserve your spot at integrativecancerconference.com because better outcomes begin with better conversations.
Well, the first thing I do when I interview a new customer or patient on the topic is ask them how their elimination system is working. Do they sweat easily? Do they poop regularly? Because this is a good way for me to understand if their sanitation or elimination systems are working. I also ask them if they're active, if they move around, because the lymphatic system is driven by movement. So if we have a patient or a customer that's debilitated and bedridden, then I really can't give them a strong detoxification program or protocol because I'd just be mobilizing a toxin that they can't get out. It's going to actually make them feel sicker rather than better. Now, if we have a person that moves around a little bit, that's helpful. If their regular pooping and their normal sweating systems are kind of in place, then again, we start off generally with the one I love is infrared sauna. And there, basically, we start off, again, depending on how the patient presents themselves. If they're relatively vibrant, then we're looking for an intermediate goal of 130 degrees Fahrenheit at around a 30-minute session. And that's sort of a tipping point. If they present very weak and fragile, or if they're a child or adolescent below the age of 18, smaller than 5 feet, and weigh less than 100 pounds, then we put them on a child protocol, more or less, because their bodies are going to respond much quicker than an adult that's a larger size person. And again, with that goal in mind, we do like to make sure that everybody hydrates because mostly, even though we're a country that drinks a lot of water, most of the
Mhm.
water we drink is not filtered
Clean.
properly or it's not structured. And so it's not really in alignment with the water inside of your body. And that actually is a very important thing to understand, that the same spectrum of sunlight that is creating this vibration, the infrared spectrum, is also organizing the water inside of your body to be structured, which is the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack. And he wrote a book called The Fourth Phase of Water, where he announced to the world that the water inside of your body acts differently than the water we know in nature, which would be liquid, solid, or gas form. Inside the body, it actually creates what he calls an EZ zone, and they are basically the sunlight from infrared frequencies structures the water so that, almost like dominoes, Sylvie, that it creates better cellular communication from one cell to another, because the water that's structured in between is lined up almost like dominoes, so that there's a straight line of communication, cells can function on an optimal level. And that allows the water in and out.
So let's speak about TheraSage. I mean, you are mentioning all those technologies that help people detoxify and drink better water and also reorganize the energy within the cells. But you are offering tools, devices to help achieve this result.
There's two methods that we basically get infrared into the body. One is through the sauna, and there you're sitting in a cabin, whether it be a wooden cabin. Our most popular version that we're ranked in like number one in the world is the soft cabin format, which is more of a personal sauna. Your head is out, and we do that on purpose so that you can raise your body core temperature without raising your head temperature or your brain temperature. And that is important because the brain cell starts to degrade at 105 degrees Fahrenheit, a core temperature of 105. The sauna is a great format to liberate these poisons. Of course, sweating is one of the best ways to pull poison out. So again, 80% comes through your skin. Again, we use binder, we make sure we hydrate, and we also, because we're sweating, we also, at least depending on how often you use sauna, we ask to put electrolytes and salts back into your body because you lose minerals as well as poisons and toxins. The other format is an on-body experience where you take the same technology, but now you're using like what we call a healing pad, and you can bring it right to a zone, particularly that you want to treat, or we call it TheraLove, which is just bringing love to an area, whether you know it or intuitively you know that you have some difficulty. You can bring that same technology to a specific area as opposed to the sauna, which is more of a full body experience.
Yeah, I have experienced your pad, and when I was going through a very stressful time in my life when my mom passed away, and I mean, before she passed away, and I was caring for her for a few weeks, and uh, and I have to say that yes, a little pad in my back every evening, what helped me really going through those weeks of which were pretty demanding, and I felt crushed every evening. And sleeping on the little pad, I felt able to face what I had to face during the following day. And I'm very, very grateful for your technology, and I can really access. It works. It works.
Thank you. What you just described is actually one of the features that we and benefits that we go for, which is to shift your autonomic nervous system from a very stressful, let's say, a very edgy kind of feeling, which is called sympathetic dominance or sympathetic, which many of us are stuck in now because of all the stimulus in the environment, both the ones we can see and hear, like visual and auditory, as well as the ones we can't see, which are like electromagnetic fields and things of that nature. We test with heart rate variability, a system that we developed internally to actually track the shift from that sympathetic dominance to parasympathetic, which is a calm state. And what I've noticed in clinical applications that when your body is in a calm state, then what other ever interventions you're doing, whether it's nutritional, supplemental, or using a biohack or a device, the body's going to receive and be able to optimize its experience when you're calm. So what you just articulated actually brings joy to me because we love that, however our work or our devices help people. We love to hear that it got you over a period in time where, you were stressful and there was a lot of, I'm sure, emotions that you were able to sort of keep in check or stay calm through.
It helped me, I mean, keep going when I mean, each day was pretty difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a number of devices like the one I experienced that are available at TheraSage. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is available for patients?
Oh, well, when we started, we had 1 or 2, but now we've got kind of a pretty full catalog, which, by the way, we make available to you and your community. I know that there's a special promotional program that we're going to offer whenever you wanna post that. We have different categories. Basically, the 2 main categories is either on body or full body, which I already described. But along that, we also created a whole bunch of portable performance devices that are battery operated that you can plug in, charge up. The one that's very famous now is one that's called a TheraSculpt, which is looks like a razor, and it has 4 different frequencies, light frequencies. It also has EMS, which is a vibrational magnetic vibration. And so these are all stimulants that will create better blood flow, increase the natural production of nitric oxide, which is a transient gas, one of the 3 gases the body makes. It helps with vasodilation, which increases blood flow and also triggers your blood to grab more oxygen when you make it available, either by breathing a little faster or by using oxygen therapy, which could be ozone or hyperbaric. That's a really good combination together. So again, we're using photobiomodulation or light frequencies that easily penetrate into the body. These are natural events. And what we've done as a company through my research and also what we have discovered in my laboratories is exactly what frequencies do, what they do. And so we've curated special frequencies just to do specific things, which is very different than other competitors. They're basically throwing a full catalog of frequencies at you, hoping some will work. And
Mhm.
instead, what we're doing is actually cherry picking the particular ones that we want, that we know by science and physiology, biology studies that will do very specific things. And we introduce those in our devices. So one of our breakthroughs was to develop a diode, an LED, light emitting diode, that has three different wavelengths attached to one diode, which is very unusual. It's called polychromatic, where most LEDs systems that are out there are monochromatic, a single light frequency per bulb. We have one bulb that has three wavelengths that we've curated. And then when we power that one LED, delivering three times the amount of light energy into the body, into the cell. That does very specific things, Sylvie. And you can rate that. It's called emissivity. So we have a 98.9% emissivity rating, which means that all the light that we're exposing your body to is getting into your cells and doing the job it's supposed to do. Any of the competitors, there's filters that, yes, their systems are generating light, but the real question is what light is coming into your cells? What is actually going to affect your biology? And that's where I think we differentiate ourselves from other companies on the market today, because they're not doing the research. Many of them are just buying products from China or different companies. They're putting their label on it, but they're not really doing the research behind it. We are also guided by FDA, which means that our devices are listed as class 2 medical devices. That allows us to go to hospitals, clinics, doctors' practices, as well as go directly to the general public or mainstream. So we've taken a different approach, multifaceted approach to it.
So to keep it simple, what people should look for when they are purchasing such a device to use at home? Well, how do they make the difference? How do
Wow.
they know which one to buy?
That's a $25,000 question. Well, for me, our company is 25 years old, and we're kind of the original group in this area of light energy or light therapy. And I think it's important in today's world to work with companies that have been established, like even your company and what your dad, your whole family did before you. It's multi-generational. It's a continuous of study and work. So it's a body of work that is evolving even in today's world. And that's where we come in. We're not a company that goes to Alibaba, buys a product off the shelf, puts our name on it, and then sends it out. Everything we've made here has been laboratory tested. It's been listed and guided by FDA, which means it's not just what we're seeing in our labs, but we send it out to third party consulting groups that are considered to be the top notch, like United Laboratories for electrical testing, or a company that's called NAMSA that tests biological materials that touch your skin to make sure that they're the highest grade that you could possibly get. And so I think these are things that make a difference. Sometimes people shop for price and they think that all red light, because it's red, is the same. But what we've seen, it's kind of like, Sylvie, when you turn on your radio and you put on 105 station, you'll get rock and roll. And if you turn to 107.5, you'll get maybe soft rock or country rock.
Mhm.
So every station, every dial on that station is a different sound. It's a different type of music. Yeah. Same thing for light frequencies. Every nanometer in the light spectrum has a different influence on your biology. And so we've taken a more of a sort of a page out of the book of nature, and we deliver in our saunas what's called full spectrum infrared. That means the full range, just like nature delivers it to the planet
Mhm.
in the same proportion that the sun delivers to the planet. So we mimic nature. And in that way, when you step into our sauna, it's like you're stepping into the most optimal wavelengths. that the sun delivers in the comfort of your own home, in the comfort of your own schedule, which is really important because we live very busy lifestyles these days. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we can get into the sun, but we're not in the sun maybe at the right time of day to get the frequencies we need in order for our biology to actually be at an optimal level. And so what we try to do is recreate nature in the proper proportions, put that formula into our devices so that you can use one of our devices in your home at any time of day to create the same physiological event.
when you are facing cancer, the choices can feel overwhelming. Conflicting advices, endless options, and very little clarity. At Maison Beljanski, everything begins with science. For decades, molecular biologist Dr. Mirko Beljanski studied how specific plant extracts interact with cancer cells, work that continues today through independent research and real-world use. Maison Beljanski offers carefully formulated supplements inspired by that research, along with targeted support for immune health, cellular resilience, digestion, detoxification, and overall wellness. You will also find educational books, organic teas, personalized health coaching, and wellness programs designed to support the whole person, not just the diagnosis. This is not about quick fixes. It's about informed choices, thoughtful formulations, and supporting the body alongside conventional care. Explore the products, the research, and the resources at maisonbeljanski.com, because when science leads, wellness follows. How long do you stay in the sauna?
Well, I think for just normal general health, maybe 30 minutes is all you need. If you have heavy metal detox or toxicity, or if you've got, like my daughter with Lyme disease, if we're raising one of the frontline defenses against invaders like virus, bacteria, mold, parasites, is your own natural immune system and your core temperature. And so what happens is when the body senses that a virus or a bacteria is coming into your system, it turns off the thermostat, and now your temperature starts to go up, up, up. So you go from, let's say, 97.8. When you get to around 101 degrees, 101 to 101.5, your natural immune system, your T57 killer cells, are 800 times more active. And most microbes, parasites, mold, virus, bacterias, they don't thrive in a high temperature environment. And so when you get to 101 to 101.5, your immune system kicks into overdrive, and these natural invaders, they start to slow down their replication process. They can't thrive in that hot environment. That's why a false fever, which is what we create in the sauna, is really very instrumental in helping fight off, any kind of disease by any means. And so that raising that core temperature is really important equation. Now, normal temperature, it may take a person 45 minutes to an hour to get your core temperature up to 101. So
Mhm.
depending on what you're going for, if it's just general health and well-being and detoxification, 25 to 30 minutes a day is all you need. But if you're going for heavy metals, the detox, and or if you're going to raise your core, create hypothermia to fight off the advancement of, in some cancers are heat sensitive, so it affects cancer cells as well, or virus, bacteria, mold, so forth. There, we have to actually get the temperature up a little bit, bring your core temperature up, and that's going to take a little bit longer session, which could be 45 minutes at maybe 160 to 165 degrees. That wouldn't be my recommendation right out of the gate. It would be something that we would work up to over maybe a 3 to 4 week period.
Mhm.
Again, making sure that we hydrate, making sure that we use electrolytes, and making sure that we use binders, because even though we're raising core to go after, let's say, the invader, we're still going to have a detox response. And we want to make sure that that's a smooth and comfortable transition. So detoxing is like peeling an onion, many layers. And so we have to start off slow and work our way into that process.
And for the people who are, I mean, don't have cancer, but are just looking to reduce the exposure coming from electrical power, wireless devices, Wi-Fi, 5G, I mean, you name it, we are bombarded with those things nowadays. What are the practical ways that people can use to reduce those burdens?
Well, the sauna and the devices we make, we've done 3 different methods to prevent, even though like anything you plug into a wall or you use with a battery backup or battery charge is going to generate an electromagnetic field. So we have started 17 years ago to actually develop methods to remediate, shield, and block. The latest, which is about maybe 5 to 7 years ago, we started using a technology that we developed called harmonization, and there we, have different, hologram chips that we install in our devices that generate a wavelength that neutralizes the effect of these 5G, 7G. Sylvia, you think that those micro towers are just hosting 4 and 5G, but the armies and the military are using the same micro towers to send out 7 and 10G signals today. So our bodies are swarming around and in these frequencies that we can't smell, taste, hear, or see. And so unless you've got a chronic challenge or you are sensitive to electromagnetic fields, you go through the life being exposed to these wavelengths that are very negative, as we're finding out, for the body.
And for the people who have cancer, what would be the first steps that you would recommend?
Well, I think overall, we all can benefit from detoxifying. So I think that's the first thing because the world we're living in, maybe you've seen the skies over New York painted with all the different aluminum and the different ways that they're affecting our atmosphere. And then maybe you can note that the water that we're tasting these days isn't quite as filtered as it could be. And again, I'm just comparing the municipal water that we're drinking that has
Mhm.
chemicals like fluorides and chlorine and so forth to prevent bacteria. That's still chemicals the bodies are taking in. And then even in our home environments, many of the household chemicals that we use to do our laundry with, to clean our windows with, do our dishes and so forth with, these are all chemicals that the body's exposed to and we hold on to. So it's affecting what's called your epigenetics. So we have a genetic disposition, but then we're expressing ourselves because of all the environmental influences and the choices that we make. It brings out tendencies, proclivities, different traits that are genetic that maybe in the past our ancestors never shown any kind of symptom from. But in today's world, carrying those same genes moving forward in your family lineage, now we're showing sickness because of the environment we're living in today. So I think start with everybody that's listening can benefit from doing a protocol either through the foods that we eat and or through using like infrared technology. Certainly we make a good sauna, but there are other saunas on the marketplace. But using a sauna to sweat out, mobilize and sweat poisons out. I think that is important because we get toxic a little bit every day, and so using things like your food sources, the water you drink, filtered water, and using like binders and a sauna every day would be a really great way to stay even there. Now, when it comes to cancer, again, some cancers, I'm not an oncologist, but we work very closely with oncologists, and many cancers are heat sensitive. And so the same hypothermia that we talked about before, raising your core temperature, is a protocol that's used very actively in Europe. They haven't quite adapted it here in the US, but here it's mostly chemo and radiation. But in Europe, they
Mhm.
are using hypothermia to fight off
In
cancer.
Germany, yeah.
Yeah, in Germany, yeah, in many of the hospitals there. So hopefully soon that'll be another way that we can treat people here. But for people listening, creating a higher core temperature really supports your cell function and the methylation of your cell as well as the triggering your immune system to be more active to help fight off the atypical cells or cells that metastasize.
When cancer enters your life, the questions don't stop at treatment. You start asking why, what else, and what more can I do to support my body? At the Beljanski Foundation, we believe cancer care deserves deeper answers, answers rooted in science, not in shortcuts. For decades, groundbreaking molecular research by Dr. Mirko Beljanski explored how specific natural compounds selectively target cancer cells while sparing healthy ones. That work continues today through independent research, education, and global collaboration. At beljanski.org, you will find evidence-based resources, expert-led conferences, books, and conversations that explore integrative approaches to cancer and chronic disease alongside conventional care. Whether you are a patient, a caregiver, or practitioner, this is the place to learn, to question, and to think more expansively about healing. Visit beljanski.org to explore the research, attend upcoming events, and connect with the Beljanski community. Because informed choices begin with credible science. Great. Well, thank you, Robby. Is there anything you want to add? I mean, you want a podcast you want to promote in the show notes or something we did not cover?
Well, I would like to highlight a new technology that we have released about maybe 4 months ago now.
Okay.
It's called TheraAir. And basically what we were able to do is recreate a very interesting dynamic that happens in nature. I noticed it in the rainforest, which is considered to be the freshest and the cleanest air on the planet. And what happens in the rainforest in the very early part of the morning, there is, before the sun rises, the moisture in the air creates a single water molecule called a singlet water molecule that actually forms on a leaf. That's like a dew droplet, right? And then the sun rises, and that early morning sun is the same sunlight that we capture in infrared that restructures that water droplet. Now that combines with the oxygen that's around, and in 1/trillionth of a second, the SOE, singlet oxygen energy, is formed, which is a very unstable molecule. The plant takes that in, and it's the precursor to photosynthesis. It's basically the way that the entire plant kingdom on the planet translates sun energy into plant energy. So that vehicle, that concept, really intrigued me. The science on SOE is more than 25 years old. And we just released 4 months ago 3 different formats that recreates that same vehicle. What's happening technically is that the light, that morning light, is attaching to an oxygen molecule. And so when you're breathing in we call it TheraAir, which is the device. It comes in 3 formats, which I'll describe in a minute. And what you're doing is you're basically breathing light directly into your mitochondria. And so that also intrigued me because most people know, even from high school science, that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Mhm.
But where does the mitochondria get its energy from? And the answer is the sunlight, either directly or indirectly. And so we've recreated the way that nature captures sunlight and the way that the body, both the plant and animal kingdom, brings that molecule into the body, into your cell, and into your mitochondria. So people that have cancer or people that have chronic ailments, one of the first things, they've got mitochondrial dysfunction, which affects their immune system's ability to fight off disease. And so if we can reverse that process by giving your mitochondria the energy it needs to fight off, to boost your immune system, to fight off disease naturally, now we're really got something. And so 25 or 27 years ago, I thought that discovering infrared and developing devices was going to be my opus. It's such an important primal element, and especially in today's toxic world, the infrared detoxing and using that kind of technology. That's how strongly I feel about this breathing technology we just developed, because again, it's a primal healing event. Everybody that's listening today can benefit from it. And we deliver it in 3 formats. One is a unit that's about the size of an external hard drive or a battery backup. It sits right on your night table, and you run it through the night. We measured the amount of concentration of singlet oxygen energy in a room that's as big as a bedroom that's 20 by 20. So it works effectively in a fairly nice
Mhm.
sized bedroom. And while you're sleeping at night for 6, 7, 8 hours, you're basically breathing light and energy directly into your cells. So you're healing while you're sleeping. That's one
Mhm.
format. The next format, same technology, is a unit a little bit bigger. This one is portable. You can hook it into a battery backup. You can wear like a cannula right into your nose, or what we call as a breathing boom. And there you're breathing it directly into your lungs, directly into your cells. And that one is portable, uses a portable backup, or you can also plug it into the wall. And it works in every electrical current anywhere in the world. So you can travel, be on the grid, off the grid. It sits in your backpack. It's fantastic. And then the third format is more designed for like a clinic where maybe you're doing IV therapy and you're sitting in a chair, and it's a more commercial unit. It sits and there's 2 portals so that 2 patients or 2 clients can be using the technology at the same time. We have that in our bedroom. So I have one in my nose, and Melody, my wife, has one in her nose. And we do this. The science is 21 minutes 3 times a week to improve your
Okay.
overall health. We actually breathe this air, specialized air, for about an hour every morning. You can't get too much of it. It will create a little bit of a detox, but mostly because it is exciting the cells to actually function on the most optimal level. And I think at the end of the day, our goal here at TheraSage is really just to develop devices that you can use at home that mimic nature, that allow us to bring nature into our homes, where in our busy lifestyles and modern world, mostly we're not connected to nature anymore. And I think that's why we see these skyrocketing cancer rates and heart problems and diabetes and all the big diseases that people talk about. Is mostly about the disconnect between the human or the animal and the way nature intended us to be. And so if I can bring a little nature back into your home, through our technology, we make it portable, we make it affordable. This is what one of our main missions here at TheraSage. So I'm excited
That's
to report that, and thank you so much for giving us the opportunity today to do
well,
that.
that sounds terrific. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing all of that. So that's the wonders coming from TheraSage. Anything else you want to tell us? Is there any promo code, any website? Please give us a website where people can go and look at your catalog of fantastic products.
Sure. The promos, I think that will work out with your team, and we'll post either on our website or yours. You can put it on the show notes. So I don't have that information today because that's a different division of our company. You can find us at therasage.com. We do have a free coaching service. So you can sign up. You can talk to either me or one of my trained health advisors. You have a problem, or that we can direct you to devices we make, or different different synergistic hacks that ours and something else, or even something else that might help you along. If you have our devices, we can show you how to tweak it. So to manicure a protocol that serves your goals. So that's a free device. That's just on our website, therasage.com, or you can see us at Instagram, which is Therasage Infrared, and the same for Facebook. So we're pretty active. We have an 800 number, 888-416-4441. Or you can write customer service at TheraSage or info at TheraSage, and one of my team members will answer you directly.
Very good. Thank you so much, Robby, for joining us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you again. And thank you for having us on your show.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Belgian Sea Cancer Talk Show. If this conversation supported or inspired you, Please follow the podcast, share it with someone who may benefit, and leave a review to help others discover these integrative perspectives. For more resources and to see what we offer, please visit beljanski.org.